stamp duty, the reimbursement of SGST. These are things that really give Telangana a competitive edge, not only within the country, but across the world. Thank you.
Well, that's a very long list, Mr. Trivedi, that makes Telangana an attractive state globally. But Abhishek, let me put you on the spot because we've heard plenty from everyone about why Telangana stands out. You look at the logistics in the land space more closely than perhaps some of the others here. Tell us what you observe. I mean, an integral part of setting up the entrepreneurial ecosystem is having the logistics, having the infrastructure, having the land in place. What are the gaps or the challenges that still remain there that you'd like Mr. Nikhil Chakravarti to address?
Yeah, thank you, Ritu. Logistics and industrial is my DNA, and I'll put forth my point of view on that. So, when you look at logistics and industrial, supply chain perspective, first thing is geography. So Telangana today enjoys an advantage, right? City that we are sitting at, Hyderabad right now, it's kind of an equidistant from your western coastal line to versus eastern coastal line. That's about 700 odd kilometers. So the world opens up for you on either side when you are sitting over here. That's the first advantage. Second, Telangana as a state has been very adaptive. It is continued to grow on conventional industries, whereas it is also welcoming new age industries. And that's what we have seen the buzz around, that the new industries that is coming up, and the focus especially on that. When you talk about medical device park, you don't hear that across India, that somebody is focusing on developing an ecosystem for medical devices. We hear medical is a big thing, but then medical devices becomes very niche and very welcoming. Pharma has been a pioneer over here. So these are all the things, and plus the talent pool which is available over here, which is very adaptive to what is coming their way and delivering the best. That gives a very unique advantage. Now, adding a new dimension to it, which is kind of talking first about the India level, and that's plus where Telangana can again stand out, because it has been a pioneer in terms of rolling out policies, taking new initiatives for industries to be supported, is the new MSME sector. While we have done on the real estate side our research, on an APAC level, we found that India's domestic value addition, which is the composition of how much you're getting domestically procured in your overall manufacturing index, is only 17%. Whereas for the other economies where we are competing, it is as high as mid-40s and even 50%. So it gives you a huge breakthrough that what is lacking. We have all the big corporates which are coming up, but then they also need a support ecosystem which can thrive for them, which can manufacture for them and then thrive. So Telangana, even to support that, has all the check boxes, that it is geographically well located. It has got all the incentive policies. Now what is required for these guys is, to be support to set it up, to handhold for the initial few times to grow, so get initial stuff done, expand, and then grow globally. Compete globally. You can have suppliers based out from Telangana, which is supplying to global corporations, and they could be Telangana based, and that's a very proud thing to have, and which is very much possible. And that's the new dimension I see from the perspective that yes, on the logistics industrial side, Telangana has an advantage. It has stepped forward than others in the country, and that's the way forward for them.
All right. Since we're talking about entrepreneurship here, let me put the entrepreneur on the spot here, Chaitanya. Just give us a very unfiltered, real person example of, when we talk about entrepreneurs, when we talk about young startups. Bangalore is the word everybody first thinks of, yet there is a thriving industry right here in Hyderabad. Just give us your perspective, apart from the fact, of course, that you call this state your home. Why you think Hyderabad has an advantage over some of the other states?
I'm a personally big fan of Hyderabad, so
yeah, apart from the fact that it's
very
your home
difficult
state.
to give unbiased, but okay, let me try. So we started 10 years back in Hyderabad. So while it happened by chance, but when I reflect with the benefit of hindsight, I think that is one of the best things that happened to Darwinbox, because if you take a startup, especially product-based technology startups like Darwinbox, our IP is people we hire. So they produce the product, and that is what we sell across the globe. So end of the day, the availability of human capital, that is what pretty much defines the success of a startup or a company. So if you think about Bangalore or a Silicon Valley, it is not about the valley per se, right? It is about availability of the talent per se, right? I mean, that's what makes them great. So at least in Hyderabad, off late, it is becoming very easy for us to attract talent, because one, the infrastructure is amazing. So probably it is pretty much country's best infrastructure. So I can't think of any city where you can get off a flight and go to office in half an hour, complete the discussions. I mean, Bangalore, I don't think that is possible. So do all the meetings and again go back and take a flight very comfortably in the evening. So it may sound very trivial, but that's very, very, very important. So.
But Chaitanya, would it have been as easy to attract talent had you not been in Hyderabad? Had you been in a tier 2 city in Telangana? Would it have been the same?
So in a technological world, probably it is not the same, to be honest. So it is more a Hyderabad advantage, but I think we will get there. So one, the stable infrastructure, a quality of living is probably the best in the country, and naturally that's when people want to move and live here, right? So that is what the opportunity here is. Not just companies to set up in Hyderabad, but also for leaders and decision makers to attract them to come and start living here and build the ecosystem here. I think that is the biggest opportunity. Just to give you an example, in last 2 years, we hired at least 10 VP level people. So all of them moved from one of the other cities to Hyderabad. So, and for all good reasons. And in fact, it is actually becoming a sort of a bait or a value proposition when we are hiring now. Earlier, it used to be a disadvantage. So now, in fact, it is becoming an advantage. I mean, people want to move and settle down here. See, these things, won't happen overnight. The credit goes to the government for creating such a great, ecosystem and consistent investment in the infrastructure and human capital.
Well, Mr. Trivedi quickly wants to ask something before I toss this to Mr. Nikhil.
I just want to add to what Chaitanya just said. We must, when we talk of the creation of entrepreneurial ecosystem in Telangana, we cannot but mention the T Hub, the T Works and the V Hub that have been created by the government. These are the driving forces behind the innovation, the technologies that are coming in. The T Works actually prototypes the products, and V Hub is the most unique facility where women entrepreneurs are being encouraged.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Women entrepreneurs, there's policies to encourage SC/ST entrepreneurs, there's inclusion at the state level. But Mr. Nikhil Chakravarti, let me just toss what Chaitanya said to you. I mean, it's easy to attract people to Hyderabad. In fact, they want to relocate to work in Hyderabad. But perhaps it's not so easy when you look beyond that. Just throw some light on the kind of initiatives the government is working on to ensure that this ecosystem expands beyond just the city that we're in, into the wider region, into tier 2, perhaps tier 3 cities in future.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. As part of our ongoing efforts to spread the IT to the Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, we have already constructed few IT towers in almost 9 other districts as well. And in fact, I'm proud to say districts like Nizamabad has full occupancy of the IT towers. We do give some to the local startups, and of course, till the new startups are there, we are utilizing it for other services as well. Apart from that, as Trivedi sir has already told, we have been giving differential incentives. If the industry wants to locate the industry in out of the RRR region, we are giving extra incentives to them, whether it is capital subsidies, whether it is SGST incentives. We are more welcome in that way, because the world has grown that way. We don't need to have to reinvent the wheel with respect to that. have you the pharmaceutical sector growing in Solan, in Himachal, or in Uttarakhand is all because of the tax incentives, and the growth of industries in the SEZs is also because of the incentives. So we also have to, as our Honorable Minister has said, we are following the Guangdong model. If we want to go for the larger scale, equal development across the state, we need to push and also give some advantages to the industry there. Of course, they have certain struggles with respect to manpower availability and, of course, availability of talent and certain infrastructure. But we are more than willing to set up such world-class infrastructure, industrial parks there. Of course, IT towers are part of that effort. We had a dream of creating quality infrastructure in the district headquarters. With that aim, IT towers have been built, and now the current government is also developing few more IT towers in other districts as well. So as I told you, incentives, of course, greater infrastructure, reliable power, water, all that, and of course, talent. We have been continuously investing on education and healthcare and developing the best talent pool. So not just in Hyderabad, we have talent pool in other districts and the tier 2 cities as well. So with that all, we would like to develop the state as well. Yeah, that is ours.
Yeah, sure. Abhishek, come in on that. And
Yeah. So, sir, while you're talking about industrial parks going to territorial regions, something that comes to my mind, for an employment generation, right? Industrial parks is something that governments will always take an initiative. If a new dimension like plug and play parks, which is not kind of common phenomenon in India, but maybe through a public-private partnership could be developed, because the plug and play parks globally gives you a saving of 25% on OPEX, 75% on your CAPEX, and that's a huge attraction on top of the incentives and other benefits that you're willing to offer to the occupiers. Then probably, I think once this is done, you don't need to push, people will automatically get attracted over there. And as it is, the vision is very clear to have the entire ecosystem with respect to healthcare, hospitality, schools, etc. Employment opportunities as soon as it reaches. I think the areas will flourish and will see the next level of growth, which is kind of a vision over here and helps the long-term vision of retail and development.
Thanks, Mr. Bhutani. It's my pleasure to tell some of the initiatives we took with respect to the plug and play parks. We have already on the way to our construction of our flatted factory complexes. These are the other word or the government word of plug and play infrastructure. We have already developed in 6 districts such 5-acre flatted factory complexes, wherein all the MSMEs, as the other panelists also have spoken, the competitiveness. To increase the competitiveness of the industry, we need to reduce their capital inflow, capital investments prior. So for that, we need to have lesser leased space at a cheaper price. So for that, the flatted factory complexes with average space of around 1500 square feet, more suitable for the MSME segments, and all is already being constructed, and 2 of the districts are ready for inauguration as well. And we are planning to set up more such flatted factory complexes in other districts as well. In fact, in our MSME policy that we launched last year, we have set our ambitious target of having such flatted factory complexes across all 33 districts. So we are working towards it, and I'm happy that I could answer that right away.
Well, we're glad to hear you have these policies in place. Of course, we'll hope to see more on the execution front and the results of some of these efforts that the government is trying to make. But Mr. Murali, back to the regulatory environment, and let me get you to answer more critically as well, so that some constructive feedback comes out of here. When it comes to large-scale investments, whether that be in energy, in manufacturing, other industries, what to your mind are still some of the hindrances you believe Telangana sees compared to some of the other states, and the ease of doing business there?
So coming from the core energy background, I will start with energy first. Telangana has not seen a lot of renewable energy investments getting into the state over the last decade. And I think one welcoming step that we had from the state of Telangana was the introduction of the clean energy policy, which actually addressed most of the issues. And I think on energy front, I think development of these large scale renewable energy or any energy projects requires facilitation of land. And since energy is a concurrent subject, which means that we will have to be dealt between the central and the state governments. Alignment of the state's policies to the central government policies, be it the Ministry of Power or the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, is very critical. And both these ministries have become very, very dynamic now. They are no more static ministries. So I think the policy of the respective state should also be revised or aligned to these kind of a policies. And the second drawback I see with the state of Telangana is India has become a one nation, one grid, which means that now we are in fact one nation, one grid, one frequency. Okay, so we are connected throughout end to end, but not many central grid substations have been proposed in the state of Telangana. I think for the renewable energy offtake, like Mr. Trivedi had been talking about, availability of power. So now the interstate transmission system facilitates or allows us to buy power from any part of the country. So I think the state's persuasion with the center has to be a little more aggressive in terms of getting this national evacuation infrastructure backbone, which is the CTOL backbone. So I think that is one thing. And with so much of industrialization, with so much of commercial activity in and around Telangana, I think Hyderabad itself becomes a big power consuming center. But I think though the integrated clean energy policy has been put in place, the C&I policy, which has been the most awaited policy for the industry, would actually bring in more and more of especially the renewable energy players into the state. I think from an energy perspective, this is what it is. And I think from a setting up of a large industry perspective, the problem for energy is because we being concurrent, aligning to too many policies, and we still, while it has been a decentralized subject, still there is a element of regulation while we are setting up projects. But I think for industry, since their land requirements are less, I think Telangana has been by and large the best state in terms of the policies that are already in place. And I think the TS IPAS, which had been improved over a period of time. For example, I'll set a very small example of getting a Panchayat NOC. Now, Panchayat NOC is a very localized issue. Okay, the guys on the local area do not understand the prominence and the importance of that industry. Okay, so this was a pain point we took to the government, and they have very welcomely removed actually this NOC. So it's actually deemed NOC, and a lot of land and land conversion activities, which was a very critical aspect from the lender's perspective. So they have also addressed most of these lenders' perspective. And I think while I have told some negatives about energy, but when the clean energy policy was put in place, one welcoming step that I had seen was they had a round table of all the industry leaders to understand what has to be a better policy. Okay, I understand, having experience of so many decades, all policies will not address each and every issue, but I think as we start implementing policies, what we could find was there was a lot of, ability to actually address those issues and resolve those issues in the subsequent amendments. I think that's all about.
It's a lot of excellent points and a lot to think about. But Mr. Trivedi quickly wanted to add a point.
Yes. Continuing on energy, since Mr. Bhavesh Mishra and Nikhil Chakravarti from the government are also here. See, Telangana has always had a very proactive and a very nimble policy in every aspect. Now, in terms of energy, I just wish to, this is just a suggestion from my side, that a day will come when any amount of energy that we produce will not be enough to sustain the kind of development that we are seeking. Now, $3 trillion economy requires tremendous amount of power. So my request and suggestion is that the government should start looking at the small modular reactors and micro modular reactors for standalone captive power generation for large scale enterprises. Thank you.
Right. Abhishek, would you want to add more on the reforms that can make industrial project planning, the kind of issues we were talking about here, more predictable, faster?
So
So when you talk about industrial, you're mapping your supply chain becomes the backbone, and for that, and probably industrial happens outside your city, which is your territorial regions and within the state. The prime factor is connectivity. Today, by default, when we say that two cities have to be connected, we only talk about road infrastructure. But then globally, yes, there are alternate routes, alternate ways, which are much more cheaper. So that kind of reform should always be thought about. And because, having an alternate connecting path, which is for the freight, for the goods to be, carried forward, that's number one. Number two is what I personally believe. We all go with the standard definition of an MSME, which is defined as per the financial turnover or the scale of the investments that you talk about. Now, say for example, you talk about a 10 crore investment. So 10 crore investment in a steel sector is kind of nothing. In the garment sector, it's still substantial. In a pharma sector, it goes to startup. So I think that definition somewhere, if we are going focus, sector-wise, that definition somewhere needs to be looked at, or maybe a new terminology needs to be arrived at. Because somebody who's small in that scale, say for example, steel industry, you don't set up a project less than 100 crores. For some of the sectors, it's already a large-scale investment. So you can't have the same lens that you look at that particular person with a 100 crore investment in the steel sector versus doing 100 crores. Say for example, Mr. Trivedi, his business, 100 crore investment goes like this in the data center world. It's like that. So probably for him, 100 crore is a very small scale person in the data center world versus 100 crore in the garment sector is kind of big scale. So somewhere that definition needs to be, kind of relooked at and given hand holding to the person in that particular category, who are small scale starting up, because they have to be big tomorrow. A standard definition kind of, just bases the investment and the financial skill doesn't matter. So these 2 points, that strikes me as the reforms.
Professor Tantri, let me slightly diversify from the large-scale industries we've been speaking about, because MSME is also a critical backbone for the growth of any country, any state, especially so for Telangana that's looking to diversify from services alone. How can some of the policies ensure that there is a more balanced growth, and when you're looking to dole out incentives as well, how do you balance them between the large industries on one hand, the young startups, MSMEs on the other, to ensure that it's not a lopsided growth that gets us to the 3 trillion mark?
So exactly the point I was thinking, you asked me the question I was thinking about. So most of these ease of doing business, and my request to policymakers also, is usually discussion happens with the incumbent businesses. The true ease of doing business is when you facilitate creative destruction. A PhD student sitting in Hyderabad Central University having an idea, can he beat these people sitting here? That's the question. That is where the true ease of business. I'm not saying everybody should be beaten or anything. Creative destruction is where you have growth. The policy. What happens a lot of times is that we focus so much on giving some land, some subsidy, something to incumbent. What we don't realize, every time we help an incumbent, you're making the life of that newcomer so much more difficult, and you're costing the problem is the counterfactual. What would happen if a newcomer had come and challenged these guys and done something is never visible when you keep subsidizing. So when we do that, we have to subsidize for critical areas. We should keep in mind that the spirit of creative destruction is super important. For instance, and I'm so happy I worked with, my view of bureaucracy and politicians also has changed, because people are open-minded. Because one of the suggestions we made was, why is a random PhD student, not a random, good PhD student in Stanford and build a $1 billion company, and why doesn't happen in India? One of the things that you have, ease of doing business. For example, MIT has something called as an engine. Now, one way of startup is you have this fancy, it's all important, it's required. What they do is, they have this, there are these equipments which require huge investments. And you have a very good idea as a small guy, you want to test this. You can't afford to buy this equipment, and it will cost you billions of dollars. Engine, what it does, it allows you to rent these things, very expensive equipment at a very cheap rate, so that you can test your ideas, develop products, and start competing. I think beyond subsidies and this, my urge to policymakers to think about those who are not at the table right now. They are equally important. In fact, growth is going to come from there. World over growth has come from there. So I think along with those who are right now making life easy to those who are operating right now, equally important space should be given those who don't have a voice, who are not there yet.
Chaitanya, I wonder, as the spokesperson for the younger companies, you'd like to add on, what more you'd like to see as perhaps some of the people that may not have a seat at the table, as Professor Tantri said it.
So the question is what more? Okay. So obviously one, continue doing what government is already doing. Like I said, investment infrastructure is very, very critical. So these are, these pockets, right? I mean, probably high-tech city, or, maybe there is a pocket of data centers or medical devices. So what is important is, the investment on the infrastructure, it should continue. So that is when people like to come and work. So the first important thing is, availability of a quality human capital, and that happens only organically. And these are very, very highly correlated, great infrastructure and availability of the human capital. So for example, water clogging on a heavy rainy day, stopping companies working, it is not acceptable. I'm not referring to any particular city or area. So a trivial thing, but these things should be sorted out. And second, primarily, I can talk on behalf of technology companies. So the most important commodity is going to be the availability of the compute. So be it AI compute or a data center, normal application compute, etc. That is one of the most important raw material that we take, apart from human capital. So now I see a lot of data center investment is coming up in Telangana. So if some of it is made available to technology companies, so probably at a subsidized price, or maybe to help us do a good amount of R&D, because AI compute is quite expensive. So that would be quite useful.
Yeah, but specifically in the area of R&D, in artificial intelligence and the promotion of these technologies and easier adoption, is there one thing, if you were to put on the table that could significantly move the needle in terms of ease of doing business, what would you say that is?
So that is, availability of the compute. So today, you fight for AI resources. So the irony is there is not enough compute available to meet up the demand. So if there is a good amount of compute that is available for the startups or for the companies to accelerating R&D, so that would be quite useful.
All right, we're running out of time, so I quickly want to do like a rapid fire sort of a round with everyone. Mr. Murli, I'll start with you on infrastructure bottleneck. If fixed, let's say tomorrow, hypothetically, will accelerate the industrial growth, including the energy sector's growth in the state of Telangana.
Can I?
One infrastructure bottleneck, if it were to be magically fixed tomorrow, you think is going to accelerate the growth of the industry in the region?
I think Chaitanya spoke about the congestion, and I think Chaitanya spoke about, from ease of doing business, we also have to ease the traffic. Ease the traffic. I think that's very critical. That's very critical, and I think when compared to rest of the cities, I don't want to name the cities, but Hyderabad is still better off.
Okay, Nikhil, we hear plenty about what the government needs to do, what the incentives are, what are the policies that are needed. What would you like to see from the industry? Yeah, they're asking a lot of you. What do you want to see from them?
To be blunt, I don't want the industry to start incentive hopping across the states. If they feel that this state
don't go to the neighbors.
Yes, of course. Now in view of the competitiveness between the states, there has been a lot of incentive shopping. That's also a new word that we learned recently. So I don't mean to demean everyone. Of course, all the industries are very professional in their approach, what they want, what they need. Because of the competitive atmosphere, if the state is not competitive enough, if we don't provide enough power at reasonable cost, enough infrastructure, proper logistics, and proper water, obviously the costs increase. Obviously, there is no. I cannot criticize them for asking more incentives, because of all the time, all they finally is asking is to make my industry more competitive.
Yeah.
I need this. So But I always insist industries, if you feel that this is the right place, as Mr. Bhutani has already said, we are closer to both coasts. You can leverage both coasts here. We are hardly 50-60 kilometers away from my east coast, hardly a district. So you utilize these opportunities, utilize this favorable atmosphere, entire policy stability and infrastructure, talent mobility, talent, and also best quality of living. So don't see the other side, be a little reasonable. We are happy to facilitate it in all other aspects.
Well, that's an excellent point.
Yes.
Don't go incentive shopping when we're trying to do our best. But Abhishek, a lot has been said about how Hyderabad remains so attractive. If you were to pick one city outside of Hyderabad that has the most untapped potential for industrial or official development, what would you say that city is?
Tough to say right now because aspirationally there could be many, but then it depends that, you know, where's the infrastructure going to. And the development over there, the basic infrastructure and probably some of the ideas of like, you know, plug and play parks and all, the industry will follow that. And it could be any destination depending upon
You're not
where.
going to name it.
No, tough to say because, you know, I mean, if I can name, probably the infrastructure is not going. So depending upon the aspirations on their side, where we want to take it. But I can say that yes, today the you know, manufacturing sector is open to going to exploring new areas, and that has been a phenomena everywhere, and they are looking more positively. And Nikhil, to assure you that the kind of clients that we are interacting, the next decade is not going to be about incentive negotiation. It is going to be about reliability. It is going to be about test of an ecosystem which can provide a long-term sustainable stuff. So that's coming your way. I think I mean, you are addressing my concerns, I'm addressing kind of you. But then yes, answering you, I mean, I don't pick up any spot, but then I think wherever the infrastructure goes, the development will follow. Because the sector is not averse to any particular location. It's not like that.
Oh, I was asking where infrastructure already is. Perhaps investors are overlooking, but Mr. Trivedi, top priority in the data and tech infrastructure space to attract more global investors here.
I think availability of subsidized land and power. That's all that is required for data center industry. But adding to what Professor Tantri was saying, see, we in the large enterprise space, we attract all the lights, all the glamour, all the big ticket incentives that the government gives. But for us to be a $3 trillion economy, we can't have, say, 10 lakh people or maybe 1 crore of people in Hyderabad marching ahead and 5 crore people in the rest of the state lagging behind. That kind of inequality is not that what we should be aiming for. You know, opening a restaurant is entrepreneurship. Opening a beauty parlor is entrepreneurship. Opening a dairy is entrepreneurship. I mean, they also should be equally supported by all kinds of incentives. That is what I would like to say. Though I get a lot of incentives from the government. Thank you.
All right. Professor Tantri, one key talent or skill challenge that perhaps the state is overlooking?
I think high-end innovation. You know, we are still, it's the country, forget about the state. You know, we are still thinking in terms of subsidizing production because as sir just now mentioned, beauty parlors and all that, we have to understand your non-tradable sector starts earning a lot only when you become very competitive in the tradable sector. If you remain at the low end of the tradable sector, your beautician, your dentist and your, you know, we claim PPP as a success. You know, PPP, high exchange rate is a mark of failure. The reason why you have a low PPP exchange rate because you're in a competitive sector, you're not competitive. As your competitive sector becomes, you know, where you go up the chain, rest of them will earn more. So we have to go up the ladder in everything. The point about 7%, 40%. So that requires high-end innovation. My suggestion and the you know, policy suggestion is to prevent this hopping. You know, make sure that you have the best people here. Then the capital has to flow. You have to go to Silicon Valley. You don't have a choice. You know, there is no need to give subsidy. You know, make this a place, attract the best people on earth, get the best scientists, best innovators here. Capital will come. You know, it doesn't have any choice because once you create this agglomeration effect, you know, there is no other choice for capital than to flow. I think we have focused too much on capital and less on talent. I think we have to reverse it.
Right, excellent point there. Chaitanya, you have the last word. among startups, is there a tech segment you believe with Telangana's current capabilities the state could globally lead in, say 5-10 years down the line?
Okay, that's an interesting question. So, Hyderabad always produced world-class IT services companies. They're very, very large IT services companies, and now GCCs are also coming up a lot. But where the real opportunity is creating large-scale product companies, technology product companies, be it AI product companies or SaaS product companies, software as a service product companies. So in terms of sheer value addition, their value addition would be very, very disproportionate. So the market cap or the revenue you produce, because end of the day you are betting on R&D and IP production, not just what I would say people as the commodity or a body shopping sort of work. So I think there is a huge opportunity because of the sort of quality talent that is available and that is willing to migrate to the city to produce a great IP and build very large product companies here.
Well, hopefully we see large product companies coming out of Telangana. On that note, gentlemen, thank you all for candidly sharing your thoughts, and I hope there was lots to take away for the audience, for the state government to continue improving the ease of doing business in the state, and thank you all for being a wonderful audience. Thanks so much.
Yes, so ladies and gentlemen, indeed, Telangana's rise as a business-friendly state has been driven by reforms, responsiveness, and a deep commitment to enabling enterprise. And we've heard all our leaders here on stage. Yes, the conversation has been very interesting from the leaders from global capability centers, financial institutions, technology firms, investment bodies. Their perspective have indeed defined what ease of doing business 2.0 must look like. I now request, yes, Mr. Nikhil Chakravarti to kindly please IA&S to please do the honors in presenting mementos to all our panelists here. Ladies and gentlemen, Commissioner, Industries and Commerce Department, Government of Telangana, Mr. Nikhil Chakravarti, doing the honors in felicitating our panelists here. I also request Vishwanan to please join in. Yes, I request. Gentlemen, our moderator, Ms. Ritu Singh, Deputy Editor, CNBC TV 18. Thank you so much, ma'am, for moderating the session so beautifully. I now request everybody to kindly please step forward for a group photo opportunity. I also request Vishwanan, Dinesh, and please join in the group picture. Yes, I request Sir to kindly please. Mr. Nikhil Chandravva, NS Department.
Of course, these basics should be taken care. Forms should be filled quickly, accepted quickly. But the thought is way beyond that.